What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another Retro Yu-Gi-Oh video and back with another Perfect Circle format video. I've been really enjoying this format, even though we are reaching the end of it. I've only got like one or two more decks to cover for it before we dive into the next one, which is, well, some people like it, but it's definitely a bit less universally beloved compared to this one. But we've still got some iconic decks left to feature for this format, and I'm going to be doing one of those today. That is Six Samurai. Now, with Six Samurai, I've been covering this deck on pretty much every format that it's come out in. And I think the deck is still very, very good. But for this format in particular, because I've shown off this deck so much, I wanted to try out a bit of tech that, I think could have promise in this format, and that is Cunning of the Six Samurai. The quick play spell released in Gladiator Assault that says send one face-up Six Samurai monster you control to the graveyard, then target one Six Samurai monster in either player's graveyard, and special summon that target. So, why do I think this had so much promise? Well, one, if you're facing Six Samurai Mirror, of course, this is very good. But two, the main reason I think this is very good is because in this format, you can actually activate this effect even if you don't have a Six Samurai engraved when you activate it. So the idea is, you summon out something like a Zanji to set up for a, Grandmaster Six Samurai play, right? Your opponent activates Bottomless Trap Hole to stop your Zanji from coming down. You can then chain Cunning the Six Samurai, send the Zanji to the graveyard, bring back that same Zanji, and then you've got Grandmaster set up there. So that's basically the dream you can do with this card, but also it has other applications when you're getting aggressive. You can use it basically as a double attack, kind of, right? Like if your opponent it has pretty low life points after attacking him with a bunch of Six Sams, you can Cunning, send one of your Six Sams to graveyard, bring it back, and then just attack him with that again. This thing can also bring back Grandmaster as well to get value off that. Like, for instance, let's say Grandmaster's in grave already. You summon out a 6-Sam, they activate Torrential. You could potentially go Cunning to bring back Grandmaster, pop Grandmaster, and then add something else back to hand. So there are a lot of different applications for this card. So I figured I'd try it out here. And I basically just slotted it into John Moore's winning list from around this time period. Wasn't quite this time period. It was played with the release of Phantom Darkness, so obviously, facing a very different field of decks, but it was using the same ban list here, and, it was playing double Six Samurai United, which we don't have access to yet, so I just replaced those with the Cunnings, and I basically kept the deck largely the same outside of that because it is pretty good. This deck's also playing Spirit of the Six Samurai, which came out in Gladiator Assault as well. And is another powerful card for the deck. You can use this to protect your Six Samurais from things that they wouldn't necessarily be protected from otherwise. A major example is things like Torrential Tribute, for instance. Normally, your Six Samurais can't, protect each other from that because they'll be destroyed as well. But with Spirit of the Six Samurai, if you equip this thing to one of your monsters, you can actually protect that monster because Six Samurai, Spirit will destroy itself instead of destroying the monster. So protecting the Mirror Force, things like that as well. So very powerful card. And if you attack over a monster that your opponent has, then you get to draw a card. And if you equip it to things like Grandmaster, this is resilient against Cider now, so that's pretty good as well. Nishi's in this deck as well. I'm not the hugest fan of Nishi, but it is a card that you can potentially play here. I'm not really the biggest fan of it because I feel like it is kind of slow, honestly, and that may seem weird in a format like this, but I do think that just like banishing 2 6-Ams from grave just to pop a card and then not attack is kind of not really what this deck wants to be doing, but I don't think it's a terrible card by any means, so we'll play with it here, try it out. And then other than that, 6-Sam lineup is largely just the conventional one that people play. Triple Iroh, triple Yaichi, double Zanji, actually. That's a bit of a difference here, I guess. And then one Kaman in the main as well. So Kaman definitely not standard in the main, but I could see it seeing play, especially if you're up against like a macro Monarch deck, right? This can pop Dimfizz, and you can search it off Rhoda, so not really too much risk to playing it here, just as a one of. But that's going to do it. Before the sort of main weak 6 Samurais, we also have triple Grandmaster and triple Xian, who are sort of the payoffs of this deck, and we're also playing Triple Reasoning to bring these out more easily here and just get other 6 Sams on board. For the other spells, we got a Brain Con, very powerful here, Heavy Storm, MST to deal with our opponent's back row, Pre-Mat to bring back our 6 Sams, Rhoda ×2 to search out our 6 Sams, and a sort of villain like to stall for a little bit. For the traps, we got Call the Haunter to bring back our 6 Sams, Mirror Force to deal with our opponent's monsters, Torrential Street to deal with our opponent's monsters, Double Fiend, Swing and Blast. I'm not sure how I feel about this one. I think this is better in the version that plays United because you're drawing extra cards with it. But I think here it might be a little bit underwhelming, so maybe this is something to cut from the deck in the future, but it definitely can pay dividends if you use it well. And then triple Solemn Judgment here to stop what our opponent's doing. For the side deck, we've got a variety of different things. We got another Command for more Floodgate decks, and a Mako as well. I think, honestly, I'd probably switch it out for another Command, but it was in the John Moore list, and, like, this is a card that I haven't really shown off yet, so I figured it's fun to just bring in and see how it does. Double Cypher Soldier here to deal with Warriors, Lightning Vortex to deal with our opponent's, monsters. They're all face up. Triple Dust Tornado for more spell trap removal, double Royal Decree to shut down our opponent's trap-based strategies, a Mind Crush, a Dust Shoot, and triple Pulling the Rug, and those last 5 are mainly for Monarchs. Shooting deck is sort of a meme. We're not going into it. So that's going to do it for the deck breakdown. Let's dive into the games to see how this deck actually plays. We're going to start out with a game against PJ Darkness, a frequent guest on the channel. Always a pleasure to have them on, and they're going to be playing Perfect Circle Monarch. It's always good to show off the matchup against meta. So this has been part of why my coverage of Perfect Circle has been a bit slower than normal, just because people don't always play Perfect Circle Monarch, especially on my Discord server, where if you want to play games in this format, definitely head on over there. But it is a deck that you are going to be facing the most frequently in this format, so it is good to get games against it. And so I've tried to have it so that every video that I've released has had a game against this deck. But anyway, Dust Shoot's going to rip out that Grandmaster from hand. That's very unfortunate, because Grandmaster is sort of the heart and soul of this deck. Just looping this thing, getting back your other 6 Sams is very good. And we actually had a pretty good starting play here by just going Summon Spirit, Special Summon out Grandmaster, equip Spirit to Grandmaster, and then get a draw after attacking over whatever their set is. But unfortunately, we cannot do that here, and they will be taking that Grandmaster away from us. No, Grandmaster, come back. But we still have some other good stuff here. We're going to go for a Swords, flip up their Spy there, and they're going to get out another Spy. We're going to summon a Command, because this will turn on our other 6 Sams when we bring that out. And, we do have pre-mat to bring it back if we really want to. Also, getting 6 Sams in Grave is good for Anishi here. And Command probably won't see much versatility against against Perfect Circle Monarch deck, that is. But they're going to bring out a Breaker, pop our Swords, and then they will be able to attack over this Command, also switching a Gravekeeper Spy to attack there as well. So they are going to attack over the Command and then attack directly for 12, so we are going to take a fair bit of damage there. Main 2, they're going to set 1 pass back to us, and we draw into a Phoenix with them last, which can be potentially good here. But we're going to go for a bit of a different game plan instead. We're going to go pre-mat for Command there, and then equip it with the Spirit of the 6 Samurai, that is. And this will buff this thing up to 2,000, and also enable us to get a draw when we attack into something, which we do want to get, because we got Phoenix with them last here, that we would like to turn online. And attacking in to their Spy is a pretty good way to do that. They do have Mirror Force here, though, so that will get rid of our Spirit, so we won't get the draw from this. But again, a nice thing about Spirit is that it protects your 6 Sams in situations they wouldn't otherwise have been protected in. Normally, if you had a standard 6 Samurai board here, you'd have Command plus another 6 Sam, and they wouldn't be able to protect each other from that, but Spirit can protect here, so we'll protect the Command, and we still get to attack over that Spy. Not the best thing in the world, because we do have that Breaker to contend with. We're just going to pass back to our opponent. We don't really want to pitch the Anishi here to a Wing Blast, and if they do have, heavy, we don't want to chain the Wing Blast. That seems kind of bad. So we'll just let the Command die, bring out Anishi next turn, and then do stuff with that. So that's basically the plan here. They're going to pass back to us. We draw into Cunning, which is not really the best here. And this is one of the flaws with Cunning. You're basically putting a situational card into a deck that is already very situational. So I think in hindsight, it's something that I wanted to test out for this deck, but I think the testing proved that it's not really the best thing in the world. Maybe in the side deck for other 6-Sam matchups if you face the mirror, but here I think it's not really the best. But we will just attack over the Breaker there. No need to just pop it. They're going to go for Brain Control here and take our Anishi. And this is a bit tricky. We could potentially think from last the Spy, and then basically put it to if they've got Ryza, they'd have to set one of their own cards and draw lock themselves for a turn kind of with the Ryza in order to bring that out. And also this prevents if they've got a Lad from Lad coming down, which Lad is kind of disastrous for this deck. But the way I view it is if it is Lad, then I can, sort of chain something. I can chain the Phoenix Wind Blast to the activation of the Lad to negate something and then get rid of it that way. So I figured that I'll hold the Phoenix Wind Blast now. They're going to attack him for 22. I also don't want to put the Anishi on top of my deck because it's dead. So another reason why I'm not really the biggest fan of Anishi. It can be dead in kind of awkward spots. They're just going to tribute set, so that's very likely to be a Mally. That is something I could potentially Phoenix Wind Blast here if I wanted to. But I figured that I want to be a bit more reactive here than proactive, because yes, it does draw lock them a turn if it is the Mally. But it could also be maybe they tribute set a Ryza to play around pulling the rug or something like that. I don't know. But it very likely is a Mally. I just choose not to, draw lock them with this. Also, draw locking them for a turn doesn't really help if I don't have anything to do with this Zanji, right? So yeah, I feel like it's just something I need to hold, even though that is very awkward. I feel like I do need to do it. They're going to go for Exiled Force here and pop the Zanji. And if I had the Cunning set, then I could have potentially done something here, but I didn't want to set the Cunning because, you know, Phoenix Bloom Blast would not be online for that. So I will lose the Zanji there. I draw a TT, which is actually a pretty good card here. I'm going to set that pass back to them. They're going to flip up a Mali here, attack in for 8. I could have potentially TT'd the Mali, but I feel like that's kind of bad when they just bring out another Mali. And I feel like they didn't have Lab the turn they took Inishi, because that's probably what you'd tribute summon out here instead of just tribute setting out a Mali. You probably summon out the Lad, because I had one back row anyway, so if I had like a TT or a bottomless or something like that, you know, I wouldn't have been able to get rid of the Lad that way, and Lad would have been very oppressive there. So I know they didn't have Lad like 2 turns ago when they took Inishi. So or actually that was 1 turn ago. Might have been 1 turn ago. I forget exactly when they did it, but they didn't have Lad very recently, so I'm not going to respect that they have Lad now. They're just going to set another pass back to us. We draw into an Iroh here, and Iroh can come down just attacking over one of their stuff. We're going to attack over the Mali, just because this gets in poke damage, and like, I could Phoenix Bloom Blast the Mali, sure, but I've already gone this far without doing that, and I feel like, you know, they've got tribute fodder on field no matter what I do, so it doesn't really hurt down to get the Mali engraved, just deal some damage. But it can come back to bite us potentially. They're going to tribute out a Lad here, and that actually will be kind of annoying for us, because with the Treeborn Frog engraved, they can actually bring this back next turn if I do Wing Blast it here, but I think I do have to Wing Blast it here, despite how awkward that may seem. I could also do it in an order that is a bit different. I could go Wing Blast, you know, target Lad, and then chain TT to that. But the issue with that is that then they bring back a card with Lad, so they could bring back like Breaker and get in for 16. Now I'm down to 1200, which is a bad situation to be in. So I ultimately decide to just go Torrential here, and then I chain the Wing Blast here, because with this Iroh up, maybe I draw something that helps me out here, that gets me in a little bit of a better spot, like another 6 Sam to do something with, but like, it's not the best situation here. The best I could do is probably Grandmaster, but that wouldn't even do anything for me here. I just draw into another Iroh, so I'll attack in for 34 here, but the Lad can just come down next turn and kill me. So I wonder if I had popped the Lad instead, would have turned out differently. Now they had a DD Warrior Lady anyways, so you know, even if I had summoned out Iroh here, attacked over Breaker, which they probably would have brought back, they could banish the Iroh if they really wanted to. So yeah, it wasn't looking good for me here. But yeah, they draw into the Lad. They can bring out the Lad here, and they can attack over one of the Irohs. Maybe I draw into a way to deal that 2,000 damage, but it's not looking the most likely thing in the world here. And yeah, they will attack in to one of those Irohs, leaving me with the other here. Can I draw something to stop this? Reasoning's not quite going to do it. I could hold the Reasoning for next turn, just being like, well, maybe they don't have something to actually kill me here. But I might as well just activate it now, get the Lad down a little bit more to protect my life point a little bit more. I switched the Iroh to defense here because I figure, okay, well, you know, what cards does this deck play that are like above 1200 attack and below 1700 attack? That's really the only thing that changes the math in this situation. I figured that they don't really play too many, so we should be ultimately okay here, but they do have one of the few that do it, and that's DD Warrior Lady there. So yeah, and they had a TT in hand as well. Maybe I should have gone for TT blow up the Lad instead of letting them get it online on the following turn. I don't know, you live and learn. That probably would have been the better situation, because even though it would have put me in a much more risky life point scenario, probably would have been better overall than letting them get a second Lad out there. But we're going second, or not we're going second, it's second game, that is. And we did side in some things like pulling the rug to help out against this deck, so I feel pretty good about that. We're just going to set ATT instead of pulling, pass back to them. I don't really feel the need to commit a Come On or Yaichi with not really any protection here, and I've got TT on board to blow up whatever they bring out anyways. So I figured that this should be good enough. Our opponent's just going to set 2 as well and pass back to us as well. So we will take that, especially when we draw into a Shien. It's very good. We can bring out a Yaichi here, and they're going to go for a Phoenix Bloom Blast, pitching a Mali. That's a bit scary for us. Spinning back that Yaichi there, and ultimately I'm pretty okay with that, because we'll draw into the Yaichi next turn and try and do the whole thing over again next turn. So they're going to banish a Mali, bring out a Mali here. That's fine. We don't need to TT that. And they're going to set 1, pass back to us. I feel perfectly fine with that. We draw into the Yaichi again, which we knew about. We can bring out that Yaichi. They're going to go for Crush Guard here, but actually did not help them quite as much as they might hope, because they will need pop all the monsters in our hand, actually. But the Grandmaster will be able to add back itself to the hand there, because it has been popped by the Crush Card, and it doesn't need to be on field to be popped to use its effect. So we're going to bring out that Grandmaster, go for the Yaichi on the other back row, hit a Mirror Force, very happy to hit that, and now we can attack in for 2100 with that Grandmaster there. And I feel like I'm in a very good spot, even though I've been Crush Card. And this is sort of like major reason to play 6 Sams in this format. If you're thinking about all the other rogue decks around, Yes, it is very aggressive, and that's fun, and also it's an archetype, which is very fun to play around with. But I think the big strength that this deck has in this meta right now is that, it does not lose the crush card, and that's something that not many decks can play. So, I'm very happy to see that this deck does have its niche here. Even though crush card is one of, people do play it, and it is just a game ender when it comes out. But unfortunately, they did MST snipe the pulling, which is kind of the card that we wanted them not to snipe. And they will be able to summon out a Ryza here. We're going to chain a TT to that. We do lose our entire field, and Grandmaster will not use its ability because it can't. It's only when it's destroyed by an opponent's card effect. But, we get rid of the Ryza, and I think ultimately we're both in top deck mode. I think this deck may be a little bit better in a top deck mode than Perfect Circle Monarch is. Although under crush card vibes, maybe that's not quite the case, but we draw into Calling the Holland, which is pretty good here. So we're going to set that, pass back to our opponent. They're going to go for a Call of their own for Ryza. And this is a bit worrying because they know about the Shien Engrave. But I think actually, I think what I probably should have done here is just gone call, target Shien when they activate the call, because I'm not actually sure if Shien comes down later in the turn, can your opponent then activate another spell trap? Because it didn't know about the first activation. I don't know about that. That's something good to look into later, but I'm just going to call the Han back to Shien here. If they've got MST, they've got MST. I can't stop that either way. But if they don't, then this does stop the attack, and it can threaten the Ryza next turn. And it looks like they do not have the MST there. We draw an MST, coincidentally. We could use it on the call, but I kind of just want to get over the Ryza with the Shien. I think that's fine enough. We'll attack over that, and then in main 2, we're just going to set the Phoenix Bloom last, pass back to them, and they're going to set 2, pass back to us. I could just go Phoenix Bloom last year, spin back 1, hope that's enough, but I don't really think I need to do that even. Grandmaster I can't summon because Shien is not a 6 samurai monster, so it's a bit unfortunate, but I still feel like it's fine just attacking him for 25. If they do have something to stop this, it's not the biggest deal in the world in my opinion. And we've got MST for their other back row if we really want to just pop both. Heavy Storm, though, does do it, so we are going to go for Heavy here. That's going to be fine by them, and we're going to chain Phoenix Moonblast, pitching the MST that they know about to spin back that set monster. So that will indeed be the end of the game there. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. We're able to win game 2, and actually we didn't even have to use our side deck cards, really. The pulling got sniped, so didn't really need to, show that off to win against Perfect Circle Monarch. So our opponent's going to set 1, pass back to us, and we've got Grandmaster plus a 6 Sam in hand, so we're feeling pretty good about that. We summon out the Yaichi, special summon out the Grandmaster there, and now we'll attack over their set monster, attacking into the Spy. That's going to just get another Spy. Then we're going to set a Mirror Force instead of Phoenix Wing, pass back to our opponent. Does play into Heavy. That is a bit of a risk to this play. If they go Heavy, though, I might just go Phoenix Wing last, target the Spy, pitching maybe a Grandmaster even. But I do think it's fine just setting both these. If they got Heavy, they've got Heavy. I feel like I've got a pretty resilient board anyways here, because if they attack into Yaichi, I can just pop the Grandmaster, spell summon out Grandmaster for my hand next turn. So, yeah, I feel pretty good about this. They're going to set 2, pass back to us, and we are going to draw into Shien. Shien's a pretty good draw here. We can actually bring that thing out, but first we're going to go for Yaichi here. Unfortunately, they've got Crush Card. That's going to be a bit awkward for us. We will lose this Shien. I would have liked to bring out that Shien, but unfortunately I can't. Grandmaster will trigger, though, and get me back that Grandmaster, and now I can just sort of attack into the Spy, switch the Yaichi to defense, because the only thing that really gets over the defense that wouldn't get over the attack is, like, Fearmonger, I think. I think it's just Fearmonger. Sangan, I guess, as well. But, I'm fine just taking the risk. Again, if they attack over Yaichi, I can just pop the Grandmaster there. I'd rather just, not take the damage if they attack into it, but they're going to set 2, pass back to us. We draw into a command, which will get popped there, so that goes to grave. And then we're going to Yaichi their back row, hitting a D-draw. We're going to attack into their set monster. It's going to be a guard. They're going to bounce back the Yaichi, just force us to summon it out again and attack, which we will do. I don't want to, like, play into TT or something like that, so we're just going to summon that thing out. Pass back to them. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. And we draw to Call the Haunter, which is very good. We can bring back Shien if we want to here. So, yeah, we're just going to attack in. It seems like they don't really have the tools to deal with this. We're going to set the call because we're going to set it anyways at the end of the turn. And if it's Morphing Jar, we don't necessarily want to lose the call. But it looks like it's just a Treeborn Frog there. And then we're going to attack in for 13, pass back to our opponent. They will bring back the Treeborn so they can get online something like Ryza, for instance, here, which would be a bit annoying for us. But we do have, like, Mirror Force to stop if they attack into it. If they spin back the Mirror Force, we do have, Wing Blast if we really want to. But likely we're going to be fine here either way because we do have Call for Shien, so we can just bring that back. Opponent's going to Roto for Warrior Lady here. Warrior Lady attack into the Grandmaster. I am perfectly fine with that since I do have another Grandmaster in hand. So this does clear one, but I feel like this is fine because I can just bring out the other. So we summon out a Yaichi, special summon out the Grandmaster here. And, you know, in hindsight, I realized I actually missed lethal here. I could have just gone Phoenix Last, spin back the Frog, and then called on back the Xian and actually get in for lethal damage here. So that is my mistake, but luckily it did not end up mattering for the final outcome of this game, because we are still able to win. I go for call on the Xian there just to bring it back and get them down to 200 life points. I mean, even if I didn't get lethal here, it's still a very, very devastating thing to have here. And yeah, they just admit defeat. Unfortunately, they did not have really what they needed here. They did actually have the Fearmonger to attack over the Yaichi if they wanted to, but I don't think that would have been the best for them there. And yeah, they didn't have enough to really do anything here. I guess maybe they drew the TT too late, or maybe they were worried about, like, you know, MST or Phoenix Blast or something like that. But yeah, that's rough for them. But that was a good game for us. I think it was a good showing for the deck. Showed how powerful the deck can be if your opponent can't, you know, mount an offensive against it, and how good it can be just when it gets its gears turning. Although I think it also kind of showed how bad Cunning can be. But we'll have another game as well to show how bad that card can be too. Okay, we got another game here also against PJ. This is actually the first game that I played against them. And, you know, then they kindly played Perfect Circle Monarch against me afterwards. But this is going to be a gadget deck. So they're going to summon out yellow, search out a green. Gadgets are a bit worse in this format because of, you know, them being semi-limited. But they are going to search out that green there. And then they're just going to set one, activate Dim Fizz, and pass back to us. And it's a bit rough when we have Call of the Haunted in hand. And also, none of our 6 hand are going to be able to go to grave to get the Grandmaster Recursion there. So that's a bit annoying here. We do draw Command. So Command's a pretty good one. We summon out Command, hoping they don't have a way to stop this. Because we do have Grandmaster in hand. There is an argument here just to summon out like Zanji or Iroh or something like that to bait out some other removal instead of the Command, which is the way we pop Dim Fizz. But I feel like it's better to go for Command early rather than later, because I figure, like, you know, they're not going to set their big blowout removal here just yet. They're going to probably set something like Shrink or, you know, 1-for-1 removal first, because one, if I've got heavy, I blow them out a bit here. And two, you know, it's just one yellow gadget here, and I'm bringing out one monster of my own. They don't know that I'm on 6M yet. So I figure it's most likely that that set is not going to be like a TT or something that, you know, blows up the Command. It's probably going to be a battle trap, in my opinion. Unfortunately, it is 1-for-1 removal, but it's not a battle trap. It is a bottomless trap hole, which will cut off access to Command here. So I lose that, and now I'll have to play basically without a graveyard for the rest of the game, unless I draw into another way to deal with Dim Fizz. So I set the call because it's a bluff. If they've got 1-for-1 removal for the call, then, you know, I'm fine with that, because call's not getting any value here either way. And they're going to search out that. They're going to attack him with green. I don't think they had to switch the yellow to defense, because one of the nice things about the gadgets is that they all replace themselves anyways. So even if you lose out on one of the gadgets to a card, you know, you're ultimately fine with that. But I guess they want to play a bit more defensively here. They will set 2 back row, pass back to us. We summon out Yaichi, special summon out this Grandmaster, and then we'll try and pop one of those back row. With priority once the Grandmaster's summoned. We managed to hit a Solemn, which is pretty good here overall, I think. We're going to attack into their set, or not the set, but the green gadget to clear that. So they'll lose 700 life points here. And unfortunately, they've got a Dust Tornado in the end phase. But fortunately for us, that won't really matter, because this was just a Call of the Haunted, which isn't really going to do much. So they do have a red, which could potentially deal with our Yaichi, but they've got this Ryza instead to deal with the Yaichi. So they're going to spin back to the top and attack over the Grandmaster, which is a little bit annoying, because if they spun back Grandmaster, we could have brain conned the Ryza attributed over that, but right now we can't really do that. So we're in kind of a tough spot. I think I do just have to set some of these 6Ms pass back to my opponent. I set the Iroh because they're not really going to do a defensive play here, most likely, given that they are in the driver's seat right now. So I feel like I can set the Iroh. You know, it's not really going to get much value later. They do attack over it with the red, which is probably the correct choice. I mean, if I'd set Zanji, it would have blocked off against that, but I think Zanji could have value for us later, so that's why I didn't set the Zanji. But yeah, I will lose the Iroh there. And Reasoning is a great pull, so we go for the Reasoning there. They're going to go for a Dark Bribe there, which is not the greatest for us, especially when we draw into Xian, which would have been the Reasoning thing. I mean, they could have called 7, right? Because that's probably the thing that you don't want to see come down to deal with the Ryza. But yeah, unfortunately, we don't really have a good way to deal with that Ryza here. If we draw into Grandmaster, again, we do have a way to do that, but right now we do not. So yeah, it's going to be a bit rough for us here. But if we do draw into Grandmaster, our whole deck's basically turned online, because we can just summon out Yaichi, special summon out Grandmaster, pop back row with Yaichi, special summon out Xian, brain con the Ryza, and that might even be lethal damage. Or we could just attack over Ryza normally if we draw into that. But they are going to attack over our Zanji with the Rise Up and then attack directly for 14 with the green. And let's see what we draw here. Oh, Solemn is not quite enough. We do have to do something a little bit awkward just to survive. We're just going to take control of that Rise Up, attack over the green. And that will indeed go through. Main two, we just have to set a Yaichi, set a Solemn, and then pass back to them. We just have to Solemn the normal summon here. It's just so bad, but it is what we have to do. And yeah, we will go for the Solemn there. And they will attack into our set. I don't know if there's anything here that can even help us, but we'll see what we get. Enishi is not it, so we're just going to pass, or I guess submit defeat there. But we can side in a bunch of stuff here. We side in Decrees, we side in Dust Tornadoes, we side out Cunnings, we side out Inishis, things like that. And you might wonder why I decide in the Decrees and the Dust Tornadoes. The reason I do that is because I figure, yes, I am bringing more traps that are dead, but like I figure if my opponent's traps are shut off, then their deck just crumbles, and my deck can afford drawing dead cards as long as we just have some of our warriors online. So I figure like, it can be a bit risky, but we do want the Dust Tornadoes just in case we don't draw the Decrees, because the Decrees are semi-limited. So, yeah, it's a bit of a risky side deck plan, but it is what I'm going for here. We draw a great opener, though. We got Spirit plus Grandmaster here, so we can go for the Spirit, equip it to the Grandmaster, and set a Rhoda, pass back to them. The reason I set the Rhoda is if they get heavy, I don't really mind losing the Rhoda there, and it baits out the heavy, so I'm happy to do that. But also, I don't really think they have heavy. They're playing a deck that plays Floodgates, and generally those decks don't necessarily want to play heavy because it conflicts with their own game plan, right? So I feel like they might not be playing heavy, so I feel like it's fine doing this as a bluff. And it looks like our opponent's going to set a set monster, and pass back to us. So I feel like that's probably Morphing Jar there. But now they go for a Dust Shoot and spin back our Yaichi. Luckily for us, doesn't really matter too much here. We can just go for a Rhoda, search out that Yaichi here. Yaichi a back row, and then next turn we can Rhoda out an Iroh here, try and time a different back row with the Iroh, and then attack into the set monster. Basically forces them to flip Morphing Jar here if they've got it. And if they do flip Morphing Jar, I'm just losing one card in hand, the Sidra. So I feel ultimately okay with this sort of course of attack. But it will give them a lot of value, though. But I figured that with all that back row there, something back there had to stop an Iroh attack in. So I didn't want to necessarily play into that. It looks like they're just going to pass back to us. I feel very good about that. We're going to Yaichi try and snipe another back row. We hit a Dark Bribe here, which is very nice. We can go for Dust Tornado on the other one. I probably should have gone for Dust Tornado in the end phase of last turn. But I didn't do it. And it didn't really end up mattering here. It was a TT. We can Rhoda out an Iroh now. Iroh into their set monster, and then attack in for a bunch of damage. So that is what we are going to do. We're going to attack in to that Spirit Reaper, then attack in for 26 plus nothing, because the Yaichi can't attack in. So, yeah, we're just going to pass back to our opponent. I feel very, very confident in this board. They're going to think about this a bit, think a bit more, and go for a red gadget here, searching out a yellow, so this does get that flow in there. But I do have Yaichi to pop one of their back row here. They're going to book down the Grandmaster, though, so that makes things a little bit more awkward for us. We will indeed lose the Spirit there, and then they'll be able to attack over the Grandmaster, and we won't be able to get something back with that because it's only when destroyed by card effect, not by battle. We're going to set one pass back to us. We still have a Grandmaster in hand, though, so we can just bring that out after this. We'll pop their back row, summon out the Grandmaster, summon out a Mako, which we did side in as well to deal with Dim Fizz and things like that. And now we can attack in for 800, 1700, and 1700. So we're dropping them down very, very low, and hopefully we'll be able to win this one with that. And it looks like they're just going to admit defeat there. So, yeah, feeling pretty good about that one. Going into game 3, hopefully we can draw into more of our side deck text. We did side in pulling the rugs as well, given their Monarch strategy there. But let's see what they do here. They're going to set one, and pass back to us. Okay, we are fine with that. We draw into Royal Decree, so that is a very, very good card to have in this matchup, so I'm very glad to see that. I'm just going to set 3, just playing around Morphing Jar. I don't actually think that's a Morphing Jar, but it won't ultimately matter because I'm probably going to set all these anyways. I want pulling the rug to resolve on their next turn before I activate Decree, and again, I don't think they're playing heavy, so I think it's safe to set Rhoda there, but I'm going to attack into their set monster. It's going to be a Sangan here. They're going to get a search out, a yellow gadget there to get their gadget engine flowing, which we are perfectly fine with because we got pulling. And then we're just going to summon a Command in main 2. Now, there's arguments for summoning a Command and arguments against it. The big argument against summoning it is playing into Torrential Tribute. I will have Royal Decree online next turn, so I'll be able to shut off the Torrential Tribute here if they do have that in the back row. And they did set a Sangan, so it's not unlikely that they would have a Torrential Tribute in the back row. But I think there are also arguments for summing out Come On here. One of those arguments is I've got Pulling the Rug. So most of the things in their deck that could get over Come On will be dealt with by Pulling. And the things that can't get over it. And then next turn I can go for Rhoda, search out a 6-Sam, bring that out, and then I got their effects online, right? And I really want to get out the 6-Sam effects because that is sort of, their main strength when they have multiple on field. So I feel like I have to take the normal summon here, summon a Come On, and then next turn I can Rhoda out something to then bring out another 6-Sam, get it off its effect immediately depending on the situation, and, sort of seize control of the game from there. But I think, honestly, in hindsight, the better move would have been to play around the Torrential, because if you think about it, like, I'm basically operating under the impression that if I activate Royal Decree, their deck is shut off, right? Like, they basically lose the game if Royal Decree resolves. So, if I'm in a winning position anyways, and they can't deal with Sidra, they can't deal with whatever I've got here because the decree's up, then I have the time to summon out Come On next turn and then Rhoda the following turn, right? So I don't really need to just get aggressive here. So I think, honestly, in hindsight, it might have just been better to play around the one of Torrential Tribute there. But I think there are arguments either way. And one of the tough things about 6-Sam is knowing when to extend further or when not to extend, especially when you need to set up your 6-Sam effects, because that is the biggest flaw of these monsters. And it definitely does come back to bite me here because they do go for a TT there, getting rid of my Sidra and my Come On. Now, the nice thing is that I have this Rhoda here to search out a monster next turn. So that's also one of the reasons why I went for it, even though I have no other monsters, because I'm like, well, okay, I can bring out a monster with Rhoda on a following turn, and I can still have the aggressive pressure. So they're going to go for a yellow. We activate Pulling into that. And then in end phase, we're going to go for a Royal Decree here. They chain a Legacy of Yata-Garasu to get a draw in there. And then they're going to pass back to us. We draw Death Tornado, which is dead under Decree. But again, my main theory behind this is that, like, if they don't have their traps, they can't really do too much here. And if we just keep drawing into monsters, we should be able to just out-grind them and out-aggro them. So they're going to go for Dim Fizz plus Hammer Shot. Luckily, I do still have a 6-Sam Engrave with the Come On there. But yeah, that is kind of annoying losing the Zanji axis. We draw into Yaichi. I'm just going to summon out Yaichi. If they've got green, that can beat over the Yaichi. But I feel like I want to get aggressive here, especially with a Brain Con in hand. And then I just pass back to my opponent. They're going to go for a red here. Search out a... What are they going to search out? Nothing. Okay. Feel very good about that. They're going to think about this set one, pass back to us. We draw into a Torrential Tribute here. Now, I could potentially crash into the red. I think in hindsight, it would have been better to crash into the red because if they've got like a Ryza or something, I'm kind of cooked. But the way I figure it is that, like, I want Yaichi on field for another 6-Sam that may come later. So I don't want to necessarily lose the Yaichi by crashing into the red. But I think I probably should have played around like a Ryza. And then I set a TT here, which I really should not have done this because if they've got Ryza, I want them to spin back the Decree so that way I can have Death Tornado and Ryza on, or not Ryza, Torrential Tribute online. But now I just give them a free thing to spin back with Ryza if they've got it. So yeah, this was definitely a misplay on my part. But this was definitely much more of a misplay than the Come On summon earlier because the Come On summon, there's debatably a reason to do it. Not really a reason to set a TT here. But they do go for a Ryza, spin back our TT, and now we're in a really tough spot because we will lose our Yaichi here, and we're drawing a dead TT, so that doesn't do anything for us here. We're just going to pass back to our opponent just in case they've got another Ryza that they bring out here, but they've got a Warrior Lady instead. Honestly, Warrior Lady is not bad for us. We can Brain Con it, crash into the Ryza, and then banish both, so that's not terrible for us here. But unfortunately, they do have a way to stop the Warrior Lady that they might have used up if we attacked into the red as well. So things are just going from bad to worse here. So I made a couple crucial misplays here. One, probably should have attacked in with the Yaichi into the red, just to, play around if they had a Ryza here. And two, I should not have set the TT, but here we are in a bad spot, and we're just going to set everything here because, we're kind of in a rough position. They can just attack into our set with Warrior Lady and then attack directly for lethal with the Ryza, and that is indeed what they do. So, yep, unfortunately, we will indeed lose that one. They did have a bunch of traps that were being shut off by the Decree. So, again, Decree is very good against their deck, but I think I probably should have just, kept the aggressive going, attacked in the red. I think if I attacked in red, I probably would have been in a good spot here overall. They wouldn't have been able to bring out the Ryza. They would have just had to bring out the Warrior Lady. And, if they bring out any other monster besides Warrior Lady, I Brain Con it, attacking that monster. So, would have kept me alive for a lot longer. I guess they could have distributed over the DD Warrior Lady for the Ryza, so maybe I would have been cooked here either way. But again, hindsight's 2020, and it's tough to know exactly what to do here. So, I probably would have lost this final one either way, especially from the Come On summon on. If I had waited to, play around TT, maybe things would have gone differently, but tough to say. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed as always. I do think this deck is very, very good. I don't think it's necessarily tier 1, but definitely is like tier 2 like maybe Rogue, but I think either tier 2 or Rogue. I think there are more optimizations to be made with it. I sort of made this version of it to test out things like, you know, cutting the 6 Samurai, Inishi, Spirit, all that stuff. Like Spirit's very good. I think the rest is kind of not really that good. So you can sort of play whichever ones of those that you want and try it out for yourself. I encourage you to do so. And yeah, I love this deck. So hopefully I was able to give it a good showing in this video. Let me know what you think about this deck down in the comments down below. I hope you enjoy. As always, there should be like 1 or 2 more Perfect Circle videos, and then we're going to be diving into Dad Return, aka the moment when Yu-Gi-Oh! Broke again. So that'll be a fun time to sort of see how crazy things get, just like with Chaos format in the DM era. This is sort of the GX version of that. So I hope you enjoyed as always. You know, as always, big shout out to my patrons, Rinspin, Pork Chop Coon, Bread Knocker, Tyler Compton, Geomindfest, Dump Truck, Scout Zero, and Damon Has. It means a lot that you're all supporting me to make more videos like this one in the future. Hope you all enjoy as always. Until next time, I've been Ben from YGF from Zero. I'm signing off.